My name is Avery Stewart, and I'm 19 years old. As I stood in our driveway in the sweltering Austin heat, watching my mother, Sarah, grip a wooden baseball bat like she was preparing for a major league game, I realized my life was about to split in two. Behind her, through the large glass window of our living room, I could see my older sister, Mia, sipping an iced latte and looking at her reflection. She didn't look away. She didn't try to stop it. She just watched. "You're not going anywhere, Avery," my mother spat, her voice trembling with a terrifying kind of calm. "College is a fantasy for people who don't have responsibilities. From today on, you handle the housework. You cook, you clean, and you make sure this house runs so Mia can focus on her empire. That scholarship? Consider it a piece of trash." In my hand, I held the acceptance letter from the University of Texas at Austin. It was my ticket out. My escape from being the invisible ghost who spent 16 hours a day making sure Mia's social media marketing empire didn't collapse into the fraud it actually was. I had spent 3 years building the algorithms, writing the client strategies, and managing the data analytics while Mia took the selfies and the credit. "Mom, I worked for this scholarship," I said, my voice shaking. "Mia gives you money every month, yes, but who do you think makes that money possible? I'm going to that orientation today. I'm taking my scooter and I'm leaving." The look on Sarah's face wasn't one of a mother's concern. It was the look of a prison guard losing control of a prisoner. Mia is the provider of this family. She is the success story. You are the help, and the help doesn't get to leave. Before I could breathe, she swung. The sound of wood meeting the metal and plastic of my vintage Italian scooter, the one I had spent 2 years repairing with my own hands, echoed through the quiet suburban street like a gunshot. Crack. The headlight shattered, glass spraying across the concrete like diamonds. She swung again, hitting the seat, then the handlebars. She didn't stop until my only means of transportation was a mangled heap of red metal and twisted wires. "Now," Sarah panted, leaning on the bat, "go inside and start the laundry. Mia has a party tonight and her silk dress needs to be hand-washed." I looked at the wreckage of my scooter. I looked at the acceptance letter in my hand, now stained with a drop of my own sweat. And then I looked up at the window where Mia was finally turning away, satisfied. A cold, sharp clarity washed over me. They thought they had trapped me. They thought by breaking my wheels, they had broken my spirit. What they didn't realize was that they hadn't just broken a scooter. They had broken the only thing keeping Mia's world from imploding. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply turned around, walked into the house, packed my laptop and a single bag of clothes, and walked back out into the humid Texas air. "Where are you going?" my mother shrieked from the porch. I didn't answer. I just kept walking. Because I knew something she didn't. Tomorrow, Mia would wake up to a world where her empire was nothing but a dead screen. And Sarah? She was about to find out exactly how much a baseball bat costs when it loses you everything. Before I reveal the exact sequence of events that led to my sister's total downfall in less than 24 hours, I want to take a moment to connect with you. If you've ever felt like the invisible member of your own family, the one who does all the heavy lifting while someone else takes the credit, then this story is for you. I'm really curious to know where you're watching from right now. Drop your location and the local time in the comments below. It's always incredibly fascinating to see how far these stories of resilience and hard-won justice travel across the globe. And while you're down there, if you believe that every person deserves to pursue their own dreams without being held back by the people who should be supporting them, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps in reaching more people who might be going through the same struggle, feeling like they're trapped in a role they never chose. Your support means everything, as a powerful signal that none of us are truly alone in our fight for respect. Now, let's get back to the moment the silence finally broke. To the outside world, the Stewart household in the upscale hills of West Lake Hills, Austin, was a portrait of modern success. We lived in a house with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the sparkling city lights, a place that smelled of expensive espresso and Joe Malone candles. But inside those walls, the air was divided. There was the golden zone, where my sister Mia resided, and the shadow zone, which was my domain. Mia was the star. At 24, she was the CEO of Stewart Digital Reach, a social media marketing consultancy that supposedly helped Austin's tech startups find their soul. She was a local celebrity. You'd see her at the trendy cafes on South Congress, dressed in $400 silk blazers and gold hoops, holding court with venture capitalists and influencers. My mother, Sarah, treated Mia's bedroom like a cathedral. Every morning, Sarah would bring Mia a green juice and a hot towel, whispering about how Mia was carrying the weight of the family on her slender shoulders. And then there was me, Avery, the household ghost. While Mia spent her days at strategy lunches and photo shoots, my schedule was dictated by a laminated list stuck to the refrigerator door. 6 a.m., scour the marble countertops. 7 a.m., prep Sarah's organic breakfast. 8:30 a.m., Mia's laundry, delicates only, hand-washed and air-dried. 10 a.m., grocery run to Whole Foods for the specific alkaline water Sarah insisted on. The list went on until midnight. I was 19, a girl with a brain for complex data structures and a heart for architecture, yet my mother spoke to me as if I were a malfunctioning appliance. "Don't forget to buff the floors in the foyer, Avery," Sarah would say, not even looking up from her iPad as she scrolled through Mia's Instagram feed. Mia is hosting a networking mixer here on Friday. Everything must be flawless. She's bringing in the kind of people who don't tolerate a single speck of dust. She's working so hard for us. The least you can do is make sure she's proud of her home. The irony was so thick, it was suffocating. The hard work Sarah praised was a lie I had helped build. Every night, after the house went quiet and the golden daughter was tucked away in her 600 thread count sheets, I would retreat to the small, cramped desk in the corner of the laundry room. There, under the hum of the dryer, I would open my laptop. I would log into Stewart Digital Reach's back-end servers. I wasn't just helping Mia. I was the architect of her entire reputation. Mia didn't know the difference between a pixel and a Python script. She couldn't explain the nuances of a cost per acquisition, CPA, funnel, or how to leverage AI-driven sentiment analysis to pivot a failing brand. But I could. I spent my nights building the automated lead generation systems that Mia sold to her clients for $20,000 a pop. I wrote the white paper she published under her own name. I managed the complex data sets that predicted consumer behavior with 92% accuracy, a system I had spent 2 years perfecting, while my mother thought I was just playing on the computer instead of doing the dishes. I remember one specific Tuesday evening about 3 months ago. Mia had come home from a meeting with a major Austin tech firm, radiating success energy, as her boyfriend Blake called it. She threw a check for $15,000 onto the kitchen island. Sarah gasped, clutching her chest as if Mia had just performed a miracle. "Oh, Mia, another one?" Sarah cried, her eyes filling with tears of pride. "You are incredible. What would we do without you? This money, this keeps us in this house. This pays for your father's medical debts and the lifestyle we deserve." Mia leaned back, a smug, practiced smile on her face. "It's just hard work, Mom. I stayed focused. I built the architecture for their new campaign from scratch. It's about having the vision." I was standing 3 feet away, holding a damp microfiber cloth, my hands red from the cleaning chemicals. I had been up until 4 a.m. the night before fixing a massive logic error in that very architecture, because Mia had accidentally deleted a core directory while trying to upload a selfie to the server. I had saved her career for the 10th time that month. I looked at Mia, waiting for even a wink, a nod. Thanks for the help, Avery." But there was nothing. Just the cold, vacant stare of a queen looking at a peasant. "Avery, you missed a spot on the island," Mia said, pointing to a tiny water ring near her check. "Try to focus, okay? Not everyone can be a CEO, but everyone can at least be a good cleaner." Sarah laughed, a light, airy sound that cut deeper than any scream. She's right, honey. Mia, earned everything on her own. You should try to learn some of her discipline. Maybe then you wouldn't be so obsessed with these silly college brochures. In that moment, standing in my own kitchen as a stranger, I realized that my family didn't love me. They loved my utility. And as long as I kept Mia's business running in the shadows, I would always be the ghost. They had no idea that the invisible architect was about to stop building their dream and start designing their reality. While my sister Mia was out at rooftop bars in downtown Austin, clinking glasses with industry disruptors and taking selfies for her 150,000 followers, I was at my true headquarters, the corner of our laundry room. It was a cramped space that smelled of lavender detergent and hot lint, but it was the only place in that multi-million-dollar house where I felt like the smartest person in the room. My desk was a folded ironing board, and my executive chair was a plastic laundry basket I had flipped upside down. But on my screen, I was a god. You see, Stewart Digital Reach wasn't built on Mia's visionary leadership or her infectious energy. It was built on a series of complex Python scripts and a proprietary lead-scoring algorithm I had developed over 2 grueling years. My sister couldn't explain the difference between a back-end server and a backhanded compliment, yet she was charging clients, real tech firms in Silicon Hills, $50,000 for architectural digital strategies. I remember the night I finished the Sentinel engine. That was the name I gave to the data mining tool I built. It used advanced machine learning to scrape sentiment from social media trends and predict consumer behavior with a level of accuracy that made traditional marketing look like a guessing game. I had coded it under the pseudonym Shadow Arrow 7 on GitHub, keeping my real identity buried deep. I didn't do it for the fame. I did it because I was 17 when I started, and I needed to help my family. My father had left us with a mountain of debt, and my mother was constantly on the verge of a breakdown, clutching past due notices like they were religious texts. Mia saw my talent not as something to be nurtured, but as a resource to be harvested. "Avery, I have a pitch tomorrow with a fintech startup," she'd say, leaning against the laundry room door frame, her eyes glued to her phone. "I told them we have a predictive model for Gen Z spending habits. Can you have a 40-page deck and a functional dashboard ready by 8 a.m.? Oh, and don't forget to bleach my white jeans. I need them for the photo shoot." I would work through the night, my eyes burning from the blue light, my fingers flying across the keys while the dryer hummed a steady rhythm. I was calculating cost per acquisition, CPA metrics, building recursive neural network layers, and refining temporal dependency filters while the rest of the world slept. I handled the technical due diligence for every one of Mia's contracts. I was the one who answered the frantic emails from developers when the API keys failed at 3 a.m. I was the one who optimized the database queries so Mia's visionary app wouldn't crash the second 1,000 users logged on. And what did I get for it? Silence. My mother, Sarah, would walk into the kitchen the next morning and see Mia presenting my dashboard on a massive iPad Pro. Sarah would beam with pride, stroking Mia's hair. "You are a genius, Mia. You saved us. Avery, why are you still in your pajamas? The floors are filthy and the grocery list is on the counter. Try to be more like your sister. She's out there making a future while you're just wasting time on that computer." The injustice felt like a physical weight in my chest. I had built the entire infrastructure. I knew every password, every backdoor, and every line of code that kept the money flowing into Sarah's bank account. I had even set up a separate cloud directory for the source code, a directory Mia didn't even know existed because she never bothered to ask how anything worked. To her, technology was magic, and I was just the magician's assistant who cleaned the cages. There was one client, Apex Innovative, a venture capital firm that was considering a $5 million partnership with Mia. Their lead analyst, a sharp woman named Elena, had been asking technical questions that Mia couldn't deflect with her usual buzzwords like synergy and engagement. I had to ghostwrite every single response for Mia. I sat in my shadow corner, typing out explanations of how we handled data sharding and load balancing, while Mia copied and pasted my words into her emails. Elena is really impressed with my technical depth, Mia laughed one afternoon, showing me an email on her phone. She thinks I'm a prodigy. Isn't that hilarious? She has no idea I'm just a face person. It's not hilarious, Mia, I said, not looking up from my screen. I've spent 40 hours this week on that technical audit. I haven't slept more than 3 hours a night. Maybe you should tell them I'm the lead developer. Mia's face turned cold, a mirror image of our mother's expression. And tell them what? That my little sister, the high school dropout. I'm not a dropout, Mia. I'm starting college in the fall on a full scholarship, I reminded her. Whatever, she snapped, waving her hand dismissively. The point is, nobody wants to invest in a 19-year-old girl who works in a laundry room. They want the brand. They want me. You're lucky I even let you work on these projects. It gives you something to do while you're waiting for the laundry to dry. Now, finish that security patch. I have a dinner meeting with Elena at 7. I watched her walk away, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors, and I looked down at the code on my screen. 1,200 lines of pure, functional beauty. It was a masterpiece of efficiency. And it was all mine. Every time Mia took a check, every time Sarah called me a cautionary tale in front of the neighbors, every time my existence was reduced to a cleaning chore, I added a tiny bit of code. I called it the kill switch. It wasn't malicious. Not yet. It was just a simple logic gate. If the main server didn't receive a specific validation key from my private laptop every 24 hours, the entire algorithm would lock itself behind an unbreakable 256-bit encryption. Without me, the Sentinel engine would become a useless brick of digital scrap. Stuart Digital Reach would stop reaching anyone. I had been maintaining that validation key for months, out of a twisted sense of loyalty and a desperate hope that one day my mother would see me, that she would look at the broken, sweating girl in the laundry room and say, I see what you're doing. I'm proud of you. But as I looked at my broken scooter in the driveway later that day, glass scattered like tears on the pavement, I realized that day was never coming. Sarah didn't want a daughter. She wanted a servant. Mia didn't want a sister. She wanted a slave. They didn't realize that by smashing my only way out, they had finally given me a reason to stay, just long enough to watch the world I built for them turn into a digital graveyard. I opened my laptop one last time before leaving the house. My finger hovered over the delete key for the validation script. Goodbye, Mia, I whispered. Let's see how much your brand is worth when the engine stops running. With a single click, I severed the connection. The invisible architect was officially off the clock. The acceptance letter from the University of Texas at Austin arrived on a Tuesday. It was a thick, heavy envelope with the university's seal embossed in burnt orange. To me, it wasn't just paper. It was an oxygen mask. I had spent 4 years suffocating in the laundry room, and this was my first breath of fresh air. I sat on the edge of my bed, my heart drumming against my ribs, and read the word scholarship over and over until it blurred. I didn't just get in. I was going for free. I walked into the kitchen that evening, the letter clutched in my hand like a trophy. My mother, Sarah, was standing at the marble island, meticulously arranging a bouquet of white lilies for Mia's guest bathroom. She didn't look up when I entered. Mom, I have some news, I said, my voice trembling with excitement. I got into UT Austin, the architecture and computer science dual program, and Mom, they gave me a full-ride scholarship. I won't have to pay a dime for tuition. The silence that followed was so cold, it felt physical. Sarah didn't drop the flowers. She didn't gasp. She carefully snipped a stem, her eyes fixed on the vase. That's nice, Avery, she said, her tone as flat as the countertop. But you know we're in the middle of Mia's biggest quarter. She's just signed 2 new clients in North Austin. She needs the house to be a sanctuary. She can't have you distracted by orientation and study groups right now. I felt the air leave my lungs. Distracted? Mom, this is my future. This is what I've been working for while I was doing Mia's data entry at 4 a.m. I can still help out a little, But I'll be living on campus. I start in 2 weeks. Sarah finally looked at me. There was no pride in her eyes, only a sharp, flickering resentment. Living on campus? Who is going to handle the grocery rotations? Who is going to prep the organic meals Mia needs for her fitness brand? Your father left us with debts, Avery. Mia is the only reason we still have this roof over our heads. She provides the money. You provide the support. That is the balance of this family. But the money Mia provides is because of my code. I wanted to scream, but I knew the script. In this house, facts were treated like negativity and jealousy. At that moment, Mia walked in, wearing a $600 silk robe and holding her phone in front of her face as if it were a mirror. She glanced at the letter on the island and let out a short, mocking laugh. Architecture? Really, Avery? Mia sighed, reaching for an alkaline water. That's so academic. In the real world, nobody cares about degrees anymore. It's about brand. It's about influence. Look at me. I didn't need a scholarship to build an empire. You're just going to go there, rack up a bunch of useless knowledge, and come back here looking for a job anyway. Why not just stay here and be useful now? I'm not looking for a job from you, Mia, I snapped. I'm looking for my own life. You're being selfish, Catherine. I mean Avery. My mother corrected herself, but the slip of the tongue didn't matter. The sentiment was the same as every cautionary tale ever told in this house. Family comes first. Your sister is doing something big. You're just chasing a hobby. I've already made a schedule for the next 3 months. I need you to deep clean the guest wing and start the inventory for Mia's new product launch. College can wait a year. Or 4. It can't wait, I said, my voice rising. The scholarship is for this year. If I don't go now, I lose it. Sarah stepped closer, her face hardening into a mask of maternal authority that felt more like a threat. Then you lose it. Mia is our priority. Her work is real. Your coding and your sketches are just things you do in your spare time. From today on, housework is your future. You will be the daughter this family needs, not the one who abandons us for a dorm room. I looked at Mia, hoping for a shred of sisterly support, but she was already back on her phone, scrolling through her engagement metrics, a smug smile on her face. She knew. She knew that if I left, the invisible architect would take the blueprints with her, and she'd be left standing in a house of cards. She wasn't mocking my education. She was terrified of it. Go put your laundry in the wash, Avery, Sarah said, turning back to her lilies. And take that letter with you. It's cluttering up the kitchen. I picked up the envelope. The gold seal felt heavy now, like lead. I realized then that they didn't want me to succeed because my success would mean their loss of control. To them, I wasn't a daughter with dreams. I was a utility with a heartbeat. I walked back to my room, the laminated household chores list on the fridge, mocking me as I passed. They had already decided my life was worth less than Mia's brand. But as I stared at the UT Austin seal, I made a choice. They wanted me to be the help? Fine. I would help them realize exactly what happens when the foundation of their world decides to walk away. The morning of the university orientation, the air in Austin was thick with more than just the usual Texas humidity. It was thick with a tension that felt like it could snap at any second. I had spent the night before in the laundry room, not working on Mia's campaigns, but carefully backing up my personal files and ensuring my kill switch script was active. Every time I heard the floorboards creak above me, my heart skipped a beat. I felt like a spy in my own home. At 7 a.m., I dragged my small, battered suitcase toward the front door. My vintage red scooter, a 1980s Vespa I had found in a junkyard and spent 2 years rebuilding with my own hands, was parked in the driveway. It wasn't just a machine. It was my sanctuary. I had bought every part with money I earned from tutoring, and I had learned mechanics from YouTube videos just to keep it running. It was the only thing I truly owned. I reached for the front door handle when my mother, Sarah, stepped out of the shadows of the hallway. She wasn't wearing her usual silk robe. She was dressed for work, her face a mask of cold, unyielding granite. In her right hand, she gripped a wooden baseball bat, the one my dad had kept for home defense. "Where do you think you're going, Avery?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "I told you yesterday, Mom. It's orientation day. I have to be there by 9, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've done the morning chores. The house is clean. Mia's clothes are steamed. Now I'm leaving." "You're not going anywhere," Sarah said, stepping onto the porch. "I told you, your future is here. Mia needs you. We need you. You're being selfish, thinking about a degree while your sister is out there building a legacy for this family." "Mia isn't building a legacy, Mom. I am," I finally snapped. "She doesn't even know how to log into her own CRM. If I don't go to college, I'll be stuck here forever. And for what? To be your unpaid maid?" I pushed past her, my suitcase wheels rattling on the porch steps. I reached my scooter and fumbled with the keys. I could hear Sarah behind me, her breathing heavy. I hopped on, kicked the stand up, and was about to hit the ignition when I heard the whistle of wood cutting through the air. Crack! The first blow hit the side of the scooter, denting the metal panel I had meticulously polished just days ago. I jumped off, stumbling onto the hot asphalt. "Mom, stop! What are you doing?" I screamed. She didn't answer. Her eyes were glazed over with a terrifying kind of rage, the rage of someone who realizes their control is slipping and decides to destroy the thing they can no longer hold. She swung again. Shatter. The headlight exploded into 1,000 tiny shards of glass that caught the morning sun like diamonds. Each swing of the bat felt like it was landing on my own chest. She hit the handlebars, snapping the brake lever I had spent weeks sourcing from an old collector. She hit the seat, tearing the leather. "You want to go to college?" Sarah panted, her face flushed red. "Go, walk. Let's see how far you get without your little toy. You think you're so smart? You think you're better than Mia? Without this family, you are nothing but a dropout who cleans floors." I stood there, my hands over my mouth, watching the only thing that represented my independence turn into a mangled heap of red metal and twisted plastic. I looked up and saw Mia standing at the window of her bedroom on the second floor. She was holding a coffee mug, her face expressionless. She didn't tap on the glass. She didn't scream for Mom to stop. She just watched my world get demolished, her silence more devastating than the sound of the bat. "Are you done?" I asked. My voice wasn't shaking anymore. It was cold, cold as the code I had written the night before. Sarah dropped the bat. It clattered on the driveway with a hollow, ugly sound. "Go inside, Avery, fix your hair. You have floors to buff before Mia's clients arrive at noon." I looked at the wreckage of my scooter. I thought about the thousands of hours I spent repairing it. I thought about the night shifts drawing blood, the tutoring sessions, the 4 a.m. coding marathons. All of it had been used to build a life for people who were willing to smash mine with a baseball bat. In that moment, something shifted. The fear was gone. The loyalty I had tried so hard to maintain for my father's sake was gone. "No," I said. I didn't look at Sarah. I didn't look up at Mia. I reached into the wreckage, pulled out my small backpack that contained my laptop, the heart of Stuart Digital Reach, and my acceptance letter. I stood up, squared my shoulders, and began to walk. "Avery, get back here," Sarah shrieked from the driveway. "If you walk out that gate, don't you ever come back. You hear me? You'll be on the streets. You'll have nothing." I didn't turn around. I kept walking toward the bus stop at the end of the hill. Sarah didn't realize that by breaking my scooter, she had finally removed the last thing keeping me tied to that house. I wasn't walking toward a bus. I was walking toward a new world. And as for Mia, she was currently watching the most expensive 24 hours of her life begin. Because she forgot one thing: a brand is just a name. The engine that makes it run was currently in my backpack, and I had just pulled the plug. 24 hours. That's all it took for the Stuart Digital Reach empire to turn into a digital graveyard. I spent that night in a cramped 60-a-night motel near the University of Texas campus. The air conditioner hummed a rattling tune, and the room smelled of stale cigarettes and cheap bleach. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a prisoner. I sat on the edge of the bed, my laptop balanced on my knees, watching the clock on the wall. 10:10 a.m. Back in Westlake Hills, in the glass-walled home office that I used to clean every morning, the great Mia Stewart was preparing for the biggest moment of her career, the Apex Innovative Global Webinar. This wasn't just a meeting. It was a live demonstration of the Sentinel engine to over 500 potential investors and tech journalists. It was the $5 million pitch that would have made Mia a household name in the tech world. I opened the private link to the webinar. On the screen, Mia looked perfect. She was wearing a tailored white suit, the one I had spent 2 hours steaming 3 days ago, and her hair was styled in that effortless CEO wave. She was smiling, holding a gold clicker, standing in front of a massive LED screen that displayed my dashboard, my code, my life's work. "Welcome, everyone." Mia's voice came through my laptop speakers, dripping with practiced confidence. "Today, we aren't just looking at marketing. We're looking at the future of human behavior prediction. Our Sentinel engine doesn't just track data, it anticipates the soul of the consumer." Beside her, in a smaller window on the stream, I could see Elena, the lead analyst from Apex Ventures. Her face was neutral, her eyes sharp. She was looking for a reason to write a check, or a reason to walk away. "Let's look at the live analytics," Mia said, clicking her button. Right now, the engine is scraping real-time sentiment from 32 different global markets. You'll see the predictive curve shifting as we speak. But the curve didn't shift. The screen behind her flickered. The beautifully designed graphs, the ones I had animated using complex JavaScript libraries, suddenly froze. A small, red spinning circle appeared in the center of the dashboard. I leaned back against the motel's headboard, a cold calm settling over me. The 24-hour validation window had closed 10 minutes ago. Since my private laptop hadn't sent the encrypted handshake to the main server, the Sentinel engine had automatically entered lockdown mode. "It looks like we have a minor connectivity lag," Mia laughed, though her eyes were darting toward the off-camera tech assistant, probably a guy she hired last minute to replace me. "That's the beauty of live data, right? It's always moving." She clicked the gold button again. And again. Suddenly, the screen went black. Then a single line of text appeared in bright green, retro-style font. "Critical error, validation. Key expired, system encrypted." The live chat on the webinar exploded. "Is this a hack? What happened to the data? Is the system down?" Elena leaned forward on her screen. "Mia, can you explain the encryption? Is this a security feature or a server failure?" Mia's face went pale, the studio lights making her look like a ghost. It's a high-level security protocol. We take data privacy very seriously at Stewart Digital Reach. I'll have my lead developer bypass the lock in a second." "Then do it," Elena said, her voice turning clinical. "Because the metadata shows that your entire database is now behind a 256-bit encryption wall. If you can't unlock it live, we have to assume the platform is unstable." Mia's hands were shaking now. She started typing frantically on the control laptop, her fingers hitting the keys with the grace of a drowning person. She didn't know that she was currently staring at a logic gate I had designed to be unbreakable. She didn't have the master key. She didn't even know where the master key was stored. I'm having some trouble with the admin terminal," Mia stammered, forgetting she was live. Avery, where are the logs?" She had called my name. In front of 500 people, the CEO had called out for the household ghost. Elena's eyebrows shot up. "Who is Avery, Mia? Your LinkedIn profile says you are the sole architect of this engine. Your pitch deck says you wrote every line of the back end. Why are you calling for an Avery?" The silence that followed was the loudest thing I had ever heard. Mia looked directly into the camera, and for a split second, she looked like the little girl who used to steal my dolls and blame me for breaking them. But I wasn't there to take the blame this time. "Avery is she's an intern, a junior assistant." Mia tried to lie, her voice cracking. "An intern who holds the master encryption keys?" Elena asked, her tone dripping with disbelief. Mia, I've been doing due diligence on you for months. My technical team flagged your code signature weeks ago. It matches a pseudonym, Shadow07, that has been active for years. We were willing to overlook the intern role if the partnership was honest. But this is a fraud. The screen behind Mia suddenly changed again. The red circle disappeared, replaced by a file directory that began scrolling at lightning speed. It was the kill switch, finalizing its task. Every client contract, every predictive model, every piece of proprietary data began deleting itself from the public server and migrating back to my private cloud. "Stop it! Stop!" Mia screamed, reaching out to grab the screen as if she could catch the flying data with her bare hands. The webinar connection cut out. Stream terminated by host. I closed my laptop and let out a breath I had been holding for years. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt finished. 5 minutes later, my phone started vibrating so hard it fell off the nightstand. Mom, 12 missed calls. Maya, 24 missed calls. Text from Mia. Avery, pick up the phone right now. You're destroying my life. If you don't unlock the server, I'm calling the police. This is theft. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a news app. The Austin Tech Journal had already posted a breaking headline. Stewart Digital Reach implodes during live demo. $5 million Apex deal canceled amid fraud allegations. I looked at the mangled red metal of my scooter in the photo my mother had sent me earlier that morning with the caption, "Don't bother coming back." I thought about the scholarship letter. I thought about the 4 a.m. shifts in the laundry room. The police? I almost laughed. Let them come. Let them look at the access logs. Let them see who really owned the Sentinel engine. Let them see that Mia had been selling a product she couldn't even log into. The invisible architect had finally stepped into the light, and the only thing left of the Stewart Empire was the sound of a baseball bat hitting a broken dream. Mia hadn't lost everything because of me. She had lost everything because she forgot that a crown is useless if you've killed the person who built the throne. The phone call came at 6:14 a.m. the following morning. I was sitting on the edge of the stiff motel bed, watching the sunrise paint the Austin skyline in shades of bruised purple and gold. I didn't even have to look at the screen to know who it was. The vibration itself felt frantic, like a heartbeat on the verge of a cardiac event. "Avery? Avery, honey, are you there?" My mother's voice didn't sound like the woman who had swung a baseball bat 48 hours ago. It didn't sound like the prison guard of Westlake Hills. It was a voice I recognized from my childhood, a sweetness that was as familiar as it was dangerous. It was the honey-sweet tone she used right before she asked me to sacrifice something for Mia. "I'm here, Mom," I said, my voice as flat as the pavement I had walked on to get away. "Oh, thank God. Avery, we've had a terrible misunderstanding. A nightmare, really," she rushed, her breath hitching. "Mia is... she's in a state. The investors, those people from Apex, they were so cruel to her. They said such awful things on that live stream, and now the bank is calling about the business credit line and the house. Avery, they're talking about an audit. We need you to come home and fix the computer. Just a quick fix, honey. You know how Mia gets with technology." I looked at my hands. They weren't red from cleaning chemicals anymore. They were clean. "I can't come home, Mom. I don't have a way to get there. My scooter is a pile of scrap metal in your driveway, remember?" There was a pause, a heavy, suffocating silence. Then, "I'll buy you a new one, a better one, a car. I'll buy you a car, Avery. Just please log back into the server. Mia's reputation is being dragged through the mud. People are calling her a fraud. She's locked herself in her room and she won't stop crying. She says the Sentinel engine is gone. Just tell us the password, honey. That's all we need." "It's not about a password, Mom," I said, standing up and walking to the window. The engine didn't disappear. It just stopped recognizing Mia as its owner. Because she isn't. I built that code while you were telling me my future was in the laundry room. I built that business while you were laughing at my hobbies. You didn't just smash a scooter that day, you smashed the only person who was keeping your lifestyle afloat. How can you be so cold? Sarah's voice suddenly shifted. The sweetness evaporated, replaced by the sharp, jagged edge of a woman who was losing her grip on her golden child's empire. We are your family. I raised you. I kept a roof over your head. And now you're going to sit in some cheap motel and watch your sister lose everything? You're going to let us lose the house over a petty grudge about a scholarship? It wasn't a grudge, Mom. It was a boundary, I replied, the word feeling solid in my mouth. You didn't need a daughter. You needed an unpaid employee. You didn't love me. You loved what I could do for Mia. Well, the employee has resigned, and as for the house, maybe Mia can sell some of those $600 silk robes to pay the mortgage, or maybe she can use some of that vision she's always talking about to build a new empire from scratch, without my code. You'll regret this, Avery, she shrieked, the mask finally falling completely. You're destroying this family. If Mia goes down, we all go down. Is that what you want? To see your mother on the street? No, Mom, I said, my eyes following a hawk circling over the UT campus. I want to see my mother take responsibility. I want to see you realize that respect isn't something you can swing a bat at. I'm going to my orientation now. Don't call me again unless it's to apologize. Not for the money you're losing, but for the daughter you never saw. I hung up before she could respond. My phone buzzed immediately with a text from Mia, 25 missed calls worth of desperation, but I didn't open it. I knew what it would say. It would be a mixture of threats and pleas, an attempt to use family as a password to a life she hadn't earned. I picked up my backpack, checked my reflection one last time, and walked out the door. The invisible architect was officially dead. And as I stepped onto the campus of the University of Texas, I realized that for the first time in 19 years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's empire on my shoulders. I was finally building my own. 6 months later, the burnt orange flags of the University of Texas at Austin weren't just decorations. They were the banners of my victory. I stood on the South Mall, my backpack heavy with textbooks I actually wanted to read, listening to the rhythmic chime of the tower. My name is Avery Stewart, and for the first time in 19 years, I am exactly where I belong. The digital dust from the collapse of Stewart Digital Reach had finally settled. After the webinar disaster, Elena from Apex Ventures hadn't just walked away, she had done her research. A week after I left, I received an email on my private account, the one I'd used to build the Sentinel engine. It was brief and professional. We know the engine didn't fail because of technical incompetence, she wrote. We know it failed because the heart of the operation walked out the door. We'd like to discuss a different kind of partnership. I didn't take their millions, not yet. Instead, I negotiated a consulting role that pays for my housing and my research, allowing me to rebuild the Sentinel engine as an open-source project under my own name. The technical community in Austin now knows me not as a household ghost, but as the architect of the most efficient predictive model in the market. I'm building technology that finds people who get overlooked, the Avery Stewarts of the world who are brilliant but invisible. As for my mother and Mia, the reality of their choices finally arrived without a filter. Mia's reputation in the tech world is radioactive. To settle the legal threats from clients she had misled, they had to sell the house in Westlake Hills. They moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. Sarah calls occasionally, but the messages are no longer commands to scrub floors. They are tentative, filled with questions about my life. Questions she should have asked 10 years ago. I answer them, but the boundaries are firm and unbreakable. Mia is now working as a junior social media manager for a small local boutique. It's a job she actually has the skills for, and for the first time, she's actually working. Sometimes she texts me, complaining about her toxic boss. I don't fix her problems anymore. I just listen, remind her that hard work is the only way to build a legacy, and then I hang up to focus on my own. As I walked toward my first architecture studio, I saw a red scooter parked near the library. It wasn't mine, but it reminded me of the wreckage in the driveway. I didn't feel sad. I felt grateful, because that baseball bat didn't just break a machine, it broke the spell. It showed me that a house built on lies will always crumble, but a life built on truth and talent is a foundation that no one can ever smash. As I look back on the wreckage of that day in the driveway, I've realized one vital truth. Family should be a beautiful support system, but only when love includes respect, honesty, and accountability. You do not owe anyone your silence, and you certainly do not owe anyone your future, especially when they are trying to build their own empire on the ruins of your dreams. This journey wasn't just about revenge, it was about finally choosing to be the architect of my own life rather than the invisible foundation for a lie. Now, I want to hear from you. If you were in my place and your own mother had smashed your only ticket to a better future, would you have forgiven her for the sake of family, or would you have walked away to build your own path? Drop a comment below and let me know. Your value is never up for debate.